The night he destroyed our bond, he thought he was choosing a better future. He never knew he was sending me toward a king. The words echoed in Emma Whitmore's memory long after the moon bond ceremony ended. The grand hall of Silverthorn Pack was filled with golden lights, ancient symbols, and hundreds of watching eyes. For years Emma had dreamed of this night. She believed the bond between two wolves was the strongest promise the moon could give. She believed Liam Blackwood was the person who would stand beside her forever. But dreams could disappear in a single moment. Emma stood at the center of the hall, her hands gently holding the small silver pendant passed down from her family. Her heart was full of hope as Liam stepped forward. Everyone expected him to claim her as his mate. Everyone expected the bond they shared to become official before the entire pack. Instead, Liam turned away from her. His expression was filled with hesitation, but his decision was already made. "I choose Isabella Ashford," he announced. The room became silent. Isabella, the pure-blood daughter of a powerful family, stepped beside him with quiet confidence. "Our future will unite two respected bloodlines," Liam continued. "A pure-blood belongs beside an alpha." Emma felt the connection she had trusted for years grow distant. The bond that once made her feel chosen now felt like a memory slipping away. She looked at Liam, searching for the person who had once promised that nothing could separate them. But the man standing before her was no longer the one she remembered. Whispers filled the hall. Some people looked at Emma with sympathy. Others looked at her as if she had always been destined to lose. An Omega without a strong family name was never a true match for an Alpha heir, someone whispered. Emma heard every word. She felt every judgment. But she refused to let those voices define her. She had spent her entire life being told that her kindness made her weak. She had spent years helping others, healing small wounds, and caring for people who never noticed her sacrifices. Yet tonight, she learned the painful truth that some people only valued what came with status. Liam looked at her one final time. "Emma, I hope you understand. This is about the future." She looked at him quietly. There were tears in her eyes, but her voice remained calm. "No, Liam. This is about the choice you made." She turned away before he could answer. She did not beg. She did not fight for someone who had already decided she was not enough. Outside the hall, the cold evening air touched her face as she walked beneath the moonlight. The pack she once called home felt distant behind her. The future she imagined had ended, but somewhere deep inside, a different feeling began to rise. Not anger, not revenge, something stronger. The quiet realization that losing someone who failed to see her worth did not mean she had lost her value. As Emma left Silverthorn Pack behind, she carried only a small bag, her family pendant, and the courage to begin again. She did not know that far beyond the northern mountains, a powerful ruler would soon hear her name. She did not know that the most feared Lycan King in the world would discover the Omega everyone abandoned. And she certainly did not know that the night her bond was broken would become the first chapter of a destiny no one could have predicted. The road away from Silverthorn Pack felt longer than Emma Whitmore had imagined. Every mile carried her farther from the place where she had spent her entire life. Yet every step also felt like she was finally moving toward something she could not see. The morning after the ceremony, she woke before sunrise and continued walking through the quiet northern forest. She had no grand plan. No powerful family waiting to welcome her. No promise that everything would suddenly become easier. She only knew one thing. She could not stay somewhere that had already decided she was not enough. Emma carried a small leather bag over her shoulder, holding only a few personal belongings and the silver pendant from her family. It was simple, but it reminded her of something important. Her worth had never come from the bond that was broken. It had always been part of her. After several hours of traveling, Emma reached a small village near the edge of the Northern Territories. The village was peaceful, surrounded by tall pine trees and open fields. It was not wealthy and the homes were modest, but the people welcomed her without asking where she came from or who had rejected her. An elderly woman named Martha offered her a place to rest after seeing how tired she was. "You look like someone who has been carrying a heavy heart for a long time," Martha said gently. Emma smiled faintly. "Maybe I have." The woman did not ask questions. She simply handed Emma a warm cup of tea and gave her a quiet place to breathe. For the first time in days, Emma felt like she did not have to explain herself. As the days passed, Emma began helping the villagers. She used the healing knowledge her family had taught her, preparing simple remedies and caring for people who needed support. She never expected anything in return. She only did what felt natural. One afternoon, she found a young child sitting alone outside a small cottage, worried because his family was struggling with an illness. Emma knelt beside him and offered a comforting smile. "Everyone needs help sometimes," she told him. "Needing kindness does not make anyone weak." Those words stayed with the villagers. They saw something Silver Thornpack had failed to see. Emma was not valuable because of a bond. She was valuable because of who she was. Far away, beyond the mountains, a different conversation was taking place inside the halls of the Lycan Kingdom. Adrian Ravencrest, the Lycan King, stood beside a large window overlooking his territory. He was known as the most powerful ruler in the northern lands. Many admired his strength. Many respected his authority. But very few understood the loneliness that came with carrying a crown. His advisors placed reports before him every day. They spoke about alliances, noble families, and powerful bloodlines. Yet none of them caught his attention. Until one name appeared in a simple village report. Emma Whitmore. An Omega who had been rejected. An Omega who had walked away without bitterness. An Omega who continued helping others despite being hurt. Adrian read the report carefully. "Why does this name keep appearing?" he asked. His advisor looked surprised. "Because everyone who meets her says the same thing, Your Majesty. She has something rare." Adrian looked toward the moonlit forest beyond the castle walls. He had met many people who wanted power. He had met many who wanted a place beside the throne. But he had never heard of someone who lost everything and still chose kindness. Meanwhile, Emma watched the sunset over the northern village, unaware that the most powerful Lycan in the world had just learned her name. She believed she was starting a quiet new life. She did not know that destiny was already moving toward her. The northern village had become the first place in a long time where Emma Whitmore did not feel like she needed to prove herself. She woke each morning to the sound of birds outside the small cottage where she stayed. And for a few quiet moments, she forgot about the night her bond was broken. She forgot the whispers. She forgot the way Silver Thornpack looked at her as if she had lost her value. Here people only saw Emma. Not her status. Not her past. Not the bond she no longer had. One evening as Emma walked near the edge of the forest gathering herbs for the village healers, she noticed a stranger sitting beneath an old tree. He looked exhausted, wearing a simple dark coat instead of anything that revealed his true identity. Most people would have walked past. Emma did not. She noticed the quiet sadness in his expression, the way he looked like someone who carried a heavy responsibility alone. "Are you all right?" she asked. The man looked up, clearly surprised by her question. "You do not know who I am," he replied. Emma tilted her head slightly. "Should I?" For a moment, silence filled the space between them. The stranger seemed unfamiliar with being treated like an ordinary person. "Most people would ask my name first," he said. Emma gave a small smile. "A name does not tell me whether someone needs help." Those words stayed with him. The man introduced himself as Adrian. He did not reveal his title. He did not mention the kingdom waiting for him. He simply allowed himself to exist as someone unknown. Emma helped him back toward the village and prepared a simple remedy for his exhaustion. She never asked for anything in return. She never tried to impress him. She never looked at him as someone above her. Adrian watched her carefully. He had spent years surrounded by people who wanted his approval. Noble families wanted alliances. Warriors wanted recognition. Advisors wanted decisions. But Emma wanted nothing. She only wanted to help. "Why did you stop to help a stranger?" Adrian asked as they walked through the quiet village path. Emma looked toward the trees glowing beneath the evening sky. "Because someone helped me when I needed it. And because being hurt does not mean we should stop caring about others." Adrian became quiet. Her answer was simple, but it carried a truth he rarely heard. The next morning, Adrian returned to the northern castle. The moment he entered Ravencrest Hall, the atmosphere changed. The servants bowed. The guards stood with respect. The advisors gathered immediately. The man who had walked through the village as a stranger was revealed to be the Lycan King himself. Adrian stood before the large windows overlooking his kingdom, but his thoughts remained with Emma. "Did you find anything unusual?" his advisor asked. Adrian looked down at the report in his hand. "Yes." The advisor waited. "I found someone who has every reason to become bitter, yet chooses kindness instead." The advisor looked surprised. "The Omega from the village?" Adrian nodded. For years, people had tried to gain his attention through power and status. Emma had gained it by doing the opposite. She had not known his name. She had not known his crown. She had simply seen a person who needed help. That night, beneath the silver light of the moon, Adrian made a decision. He needed to meet Emma again. Not as a king searching for an alliance. Not as a ruler seeking advantage. But as the man who wanted to understand the Omega, who had reminded him that true strength could exist without a throne. And while Emma continued believing she was only beginning a quiet life away from the world that rejected her, the most powerful Lycan in the Northern Territories had already started moving toward her destiny. The morning after Adrian returned to Ravencrest Castle, the Northern Kingdom felt strangely different to him. The halls were the same. The responsibilities were the same. The endless decisions waiting for the Lycan King were still there. But his thoughts kept returning to one person who had no idea who he truly was. Emma Whitmore. The Omega who looked at him without fear. The Omega who offered kindness without expecting anything in return. For the first time in years, Adrian found himself curious about someone not because of their family name or their position, but because of the person they were when no one was watching. Several days later, a royal carriage arrived at the northern village. The symbol of the Lycan Kingdom immediately caught everyone's attention. The villagers gathered quietly as the royal messenger stepped forward. "Emma Whitmore?" he asked. Emma walked toward him, surprised to hear her name connected to the royal crest. "Yes." The messenger bowed respectfully. "By order of His Majesty, the Lycan King requests your presence at Ravencrest Castle." The village became silent. Emma looked confused. She had never imagined that someone like her would receive an invitation from the most powerful ruler in the Northern Territories. She wondered why a king would want to meet an ordinary Omega, who had only helped a few villagers. Still, something inside her told her that refusing without understanding would not be fair. The journey to Ravencrest Castle took several hours. As Emma watched the landscape change beyond the carriage window, she saw towering mountains, endless forests, and a kingdom unlike anything she had known. When the castle finally appeared, it stood above the valley like a place from an ancient story. Inside the grand halls, everything felt larger than life. The stone walls carried centuries of history. The servants moved with careful respect. The atmosphere was powerful, yet strangely peaceful. Emma was guided into a private chamber where Adrian waited. But this time he was no longer wearing simple clothes. He stood before her as the Lycan King. A royal cloak rested over his shoulders, and every detail about him revealed the authority he carried. Emma stopped in surprise. "You are the king." Adrian nodded. "I am." For a moment, she remembered the stranger beneath the tree. The man who had allowed her to see him without his title. "Why did you not tell me?" she asked softly. Adrian looked at her honestly. "Because I wanted to know if you would treat me differently after learning who I was." Emma lowered her gaze. "And now you know?" "Now I know exactly who you are," he replied. "That is why I asked you here." Adrian explained that the kingdom needed someone who understood compassion as much as strength. He told her that many people wanted a place beside the throne, but very few understood the responsibility that came with it. Emma listened carefully, still uncertain why she was part of this conversation. "I am only an Omega who lost everything," she said quietly. Adrian looked at her with calm certainty. "No. You are an Omega who lost something and still chose to remain kind." Those words reached deeper than she expected. For so long, Emma believed losing her bond meant losing her future. But standing inside the Lycan King's castle, she began to wonder if the ending she feared was actually a new beginning. Adrian stepped closer to the table where an old document rested. "I have a proposal for you." Emma looked at the parchment, unsure what she would find. "I want you to become my Luna." The room became completely silent. Emma stared at him, unable to understand. The Lycan King, the most powerful ruler in the north, was asking an abandoned Omega to stand beside him. But Adrian knew something the rest of the world did not. Emma had never been powerless. She had simply been waiting for someone to see the strength she already carried. The days following Adrian Ravencrest's proposal were filled with uncertainty for Emma Whitmore. She remained inside the Lycan King's castle, surrounded by grand halls, royal traditions, and people who had spent their entire lives near power. Yet despite the beauty of the palace, Emma still felt like someone standing at the edge of a world she did not belong to. She had spent so long being told she was not enough that accepting a place beside a king felt almost impossible. Every morning she reminded herself that she was not chosen because she needed to be saved. She was chosen because Adrian had seen something in her that she had forgotten to see in herself. Adrian never rushed her decision. He did not demand an answer or use his position to influence her. Instead, he allowed her time to understand the life he was offering. That alone surprised Emma. She had expected a king to give commands. She did not expect him to listen. During her first week at Ravencrest Castle, Emma began learning about the people of the Lycan Kingdom. She visited the healing rooms, spoke with the castle workers, and listened to the concerns of families from nearby villages. Just as she had done before, she helped without asking for recognition. The difference was that now people noticed. The servants saw the way she thanked them by name. The healers saw how carefully she studied every situation before offering help. The villagers saw that her kindness was not an act created for the royal court. It was simply who she was. Adrian watched these moments quietly. He had expected Emma to need time adjusting to palace life. Instead, she changed the atmosphere around her without trying. One evening, he found her in the castle garden speaking with a group of young villagers who had come to deliver supplies. She was laughing softly, completely unaware that several royal advisors were watching from a distance. "She does not behave like someone trying to become queen," one advisor said. Adrian looked toward Emma. "That is exactly why she may become one." The advisor remained silent. Many people wanted the title of Luna. Emma was the first person Adrian had met who cared more about serving others than receiving the title itself. But not everyone in the kingdom accepted her presence. Some nobles questioned Adrian's decision. They believed a pureblood woman would have been a more suitable choice. They whispered that an Omega without a powerful family name could never represent the Lycan Kingdom. Emma heard those words, but they no longer had the same power over her. She had already survived the moment when the person she trusted most chose someone else. She had already walked away from a place that no longer valued her. These whispers were only echoes of a past she had outgrown. One afternoon, Adrian found Emma standing near the castle balcony, looking over the vast northern lands. "Do you regret coming here?" he asked. Emma thought for a moment. "I was afraid at first. I thought I had lost everything when my bond was broken." She looked toward the mountains. "But maybe I only lost the future I was forcing myself to accept." Adrian stood beside her, quietly understanding. "And what do you see now?" Emma smiled gently. "A chance to become someone I was always meant to be." For the first time, Adrian saw confidence replacing the doubt she carried when they first met. But beyond the northern borders, news of Emma's new position was spreading. And among those who heard it were the people who once believed they had made the right choice by letting her go. The news of Emma Whitmore standing beside the Lycan King traveled faster than anyone expected. Across the northern territories, people spoke about the Omega who had entered Ravencrest Castle with nothing but a small bag and a wounded heart, yet somehow earned the respect of an entire kingdom. But far away from the peaceful lands of the Lycan Kingdom, two people heard those rumors with disbelief. Liam Blackwood and Isabella Ashford arrived at Ravencrest Castle several days later, carrying the confidence of those who believed they still understood Emma. They expected to find the same woman who had left Silverthorn Pack quietly. The woman who once looked at Liam with hope in her eyes. Instead, they found someone completely different. The moment Emma entered the grand hall beside Adrian Ravencrest, the room became silent. She was not wearing a crown. She was not trying to prove anything. She simply walked with calm confidence, knowing she no longer needed approval from anyone. Liam stared at her, unable to hide his surprise. The Omega he once believed was not enough was now standing beside the most powerful Lycan in the world. Isabella looked at Adrian carefully, trying to understand why a king would choose someone without a pureblood name. Your Majesty, Isabella said politely, we came to discuss a possible alliance between our families. Adrian listened calmly, but his attention remained focused on Emma's reaction. He wanted to know if seeing her pass would reopen old wounds. But Emma only stood quietly, peaceful and composed. Later, when the guests were shown through the castle gardens, Liam approached her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The person who once knew her best now felt like a stranger. Emma, he finally said. I never expected this. She looked at him gently. Neither did I. Liam looked away. I thought I was choosing the future that made the most sense. Emma nodded slowly. I know. Her calm response surprised him. He had expected anger. He had expected blame. Instead, she offered understanding. How can you be so calm? Liam asked. Emma looked toward the castle walls glowing beneath the evening light. Because I spent a long time believing I needed you to choose me. Then I realized I needed to choose myself first. Those words stayed with him. For the first time, Liam understood that Emma had not become stronger because she stood beside the Lycan King. She had become stronger before Adrian ever arrived. Adrian later found Emma in the garden, quietly watching the stars. Are you all right? He asked. Emma smiled. Yes. I think I finally understand something. She turned toward him. The bond one lost was painful, but it also gave me the chance to find myself. Adrian looked at her with admiration. That is why I chose you. Emma looked surprised. Because I lost everything? Adrian shook his head. No. Because you lost something important and still refused to lose your kindness. The next morning, a royal announcement was prepared throughout the kingdom. Adrian was ready to make his choice known before everyone. But before that moment arrived, an old secret hidden within Emma's family history was about to be revealed. A secret that would show the world the Omega they underestimated had always carried a rare gift within her. The morning sun rose above Ravencrest Castle, as the entire kingdom prepared for the announcement that everyone had been waiting for. The grand hall was filled with nobles, villagers, and leaders from different territories. Some came with curiosity, some came with doubt, but everyone wanted to see the woman who had changed the future of the Lycan Kingdom. Emma Whitmore stood beside Adrian Ravencrest, feeling the weight of hundreds of eyes watching her. A few months earlier, she had stood alone in another hall, believing her life had ended when her bond was broken. Now she stood beside the Lycan King, not because she had become someone else, but because she had finally found people who valued who she already was. Adrian stepped forward, his voice calm and powerful. For generations, this kingdom has believed that strength comes from status, bloodlines, and power. But a kingdom is not protected by titles alone. It is protected by the hearts of those who care for its people. The room became quiet. Emma listened as Adrian spoke about her actions, not her background. He spoke about the villages she helped, the people she supported, and the kindness she showed when no one expected anything from her. I did not choose Emma Whitmore because she was an Omega, Adrian continued. I chose her because she never allowed the world to make her heart smaller. The words touched everyone in the hall. But before the ceremony could continue, an elder from the royal archives stepped forward carrying an old family record. There is something the kingdom must know, the elder said. Emma looked surprised as the ancient document was presented before her. The record revealed that her family had once carried a forgotten legacy. They were descendants of moonlight healers, a rare group known throughout history for bringing comfort and healing to the northern lands. The truth was not that Emma had lacked a special heritage. The truth was that her heritage had been hidden for generations. She looked down at the record, remembering every moment she had been called ordinary. Every time someone told her she was not worthy of standing beside power. Now she understood. The world had never seen her clearly, but that never changed who she was. Liam and Isabella watched from the crowd. Liam lowered his gaze, realizing the mistake he had made. He had believed choosing a pureblood meant choosing greatness. He never understood that greatness was already standing in front of him. Isabella remained silent, unable to deny the respect Emma had earned through her actions. After the announcement, Emma stepped outside into the castle gardens. Adrian followed her, giving her a moment before speaking. Are you overwhelmed? He asked. Emma smiled softly. A little. I spent so long thinking I was someone people could easily replace. Adrian looked at her with quiet certainty. You were never replaceable. They simply failed to recognize you. Emma looked toward the mountains beyond the kingdom. For the first time, she did not see herself as the Omega who was left behind. She saw herself as someone who had survived, grown, and found a place where she belonged. But the greatest moment was still ahead. The entire kingdom was waiting for Adrian's final decision. And soon, the Lycan King would publicly reveal the woman he wanted beside him for the rest of his reign. The days after the revelation of Emma Whitmore's hidden heritage brought a new understanding throughout the Lycan Kingdom. The people who once questioned her place beside Adrian Ravencrest began to see the truth they had overlooked. Emma had never needed a powerful name to prove herself. She had already shown her worth through every choice she made when no one was watching. Yet even with the kingdom beginning to accept her, Emma still carried memories of the past. She remembered standing alone in Silverthorn Pack, hearing the person she loved choose someone else. She remembered believing that losing her bond meant losing the future she was meant to have. But now, walking through the gardens of Ravencrest Castle, she realized something important. The ending she feared had become the beginning she never expected. Adrian often joined her during her walks through the kingdom. He no longer saw her as someone he needed to protect. He saw her as an equal partner who brought a different kind of strength to his world. One evening, as they stood beneath the ancient trees of the royal garden, Adrian asked her a question he had carried for some time. Do you ever wish things had happened differently? Emma looked toward the moon, shining above the castle. She thought about the past, about Liam, about the life she once imagined. I used to, she admitted. I thought happiness meant keeping the bond one lost. I thought my future disappeared when someone chose another person. She paused and smiled softly. But now I understand that sometimes losing what you thought you needed is how you find what you truly deserve. Adrian listened quietly. Those words meant more to him than she realized. He had spent years surrounded by people who admired the crown but never truly understood the person wearing it. Emma had seen him before she knew his title. She had cared about him before she knew his power. That was what made her different. Meanwhile, news of Emma's transformation continued reaching Silverthorn Pack. Liam struggled with the truth of his choices. He had once believed a pureblood connection would bring him a greater future. But now he saw that he had abandoned someone whose heart was far more valuable than any family name. When he finally spoke with Emma again, he expected anger. Instead, he found peace. I thought I was choosing the right path, Liam said quietly. Emma looked at him with understanding. Everyone makes choices based on what they believe at the time. He looked surprised by her forgiveness. After everything, how can you still be kind to me? Emma smiled gently. Because I do not want my future to be controlled by my past. Those words stayed with him. He finally understood that Emma's greatest strength was not her hidden heritage, or her connection to the Lycan King. It was her ability to remain herself despite everything she had lost. That night, Adrian prepared for the most important announcement of his reign. The entire kingdom would soon gather at Ravencrest Castle. Everyone wanted to know who the Lycan King would choose as his Luna. But Adrian already knew the answer. He had known since the moment an unknown Omega looked at him without seeing a crown, a title, or a legend. She had seen him as a person. And now, he was ready to show the entire world that the woman they once overlooked was the only person he wanted beside him. The entire Lycan Kingdom gathered at Ravencrest Castle beneath a sky filled with golden morning light. From the highest towers to the villages beyond the mountains, everyone knew this day would become part of history. The grand hall was decorated with ancient symbols, silver banners, and flowers from every region of the kingdom. But the most important moment was not about tradition or power. It was about a choice. Emma Whitmore stood beside Adrian Ravencrest, looking across the hall filled with people who had once questioned whether she belonged. She remembered the girl who walked away from Silverthorn Pack carrying nothing but a small bag and a broken heart. She remembered believing that losing her bond meant losing her future. But now she understood something she never knew before. A person could lose the life they imagined and still find something greater than they dreamed. Adrian stepped forward, and the room became silent. The Lycan King was known for his authority, his wisdom, and the respect he commanded throughout the lands. But today, everyone saw something different in his expression. They saw certainty. For many years, people believed that the person beside a ruler must be chosen by bloodline, influence, or tradition, Adrian said. But a kingdom is not strengthened by names alone. It is strengthened by those who care for the people who call it home. His eyes turned toward Emma. Emma Whitmore showed kindness when she had every reason to turn away. She offered hope when she had every reason to give up. She saw a person before she saw a title. The hall remained silent as his words reached everyone. That is why I choose her as my Luna. The announcement carried through the castle like a promise. Emma felt emotion rise inside her, but this time they were not tears of pain. They were tears of understanding. She finally realized that she had never needed to become someone worthy of love. She had always been worthy. The crowd responded with respect as the people of the kingdom welcomed their future Luna. Even those who once doubted her could no longer deny the truth. Liam Blackwood watched quietly from among the guests. He thought about the night he believed he had chosen a better future. Now he understood that the greatest mistake was not losing Emma. It was failing to recognize her when she was still beside him. Isabella Ashford also remained silent, realizing that a pureblood name could open doors, but it could never replace genuine character. Later that evening, Emma and Adrian walked through the same garden where they had shared their first honest conversations. The moonlight covered the flowers, and the castle stood peacefully behind them. Do you ever think about what your life would have been like if you stayed? Adrian asked. Emma smiled as she looked toward the distant mountains. Sometimes. But I think every step brought me here. Adrian gently smiled. Then I am grateful for every step you took. Emma looked at the kingdom below and remembered everything she had survived. The rejection, the loneliness, the uncertainty. None of it disappeared, but it no longer controlled her. Those moments had shaped her into the person standing there now. The Omega who was once overlooked had become the Luna of the Lycan kingdom. Not because someone finally gave her value, but because someone finally recognized the value she had always carried. And beside the Lycan King who chose her heart before her name, Emma found the place where she truly belonged.